get an update out in the field with Tyson Narjes from Sidney, Nebraska to see how wheat harvest is coming along in his region of the Cornhusker State. Tyson, thanks so much for joining us here from the Combine Cab. I guess I'm curious as we toss this over to you, how's the yield coming in on those fields that you're harvesting right now?
Well, you know, after a few disappointing years, last year turned out to be one of the poorest years in my career. We had a lot of frost damage and drought that severely hindered yields. But let's not talk about the past anymore, because this year's crop, although it may have came out of winter in pretty poor shape, is doing very, very well. So the acres that did make it through the winter months and do well are yielding quite well. And we're kind of seeing yields in that 40 to 70 bushels per acre range. And after talking to a couple of the elevators, that's kind of what they're hearing as well. So yields are good, and we're really excited about this year's crop.
All right, Tyson, I mentioned you guys out in the Panhandle out by Sidney. You've been dodging hail left and right, it seems like. Did any hail hit your wheat crop this year?
There's been a lot of streaky hail. I guess when we have as much rain as we have this spring, it's just inevitable that we're going to have some hail damage. And so you find some areas that have some severe hail damage to it, and then others that a lot of it had a little bit, but obviously these yields aren't really reflecting what the true damage was. So there are spots that they lost quite a few acres, but by and large, most acres look pretty good with just minimal damage.
All right, that's on the wheat front. Tyson, how about your corn crop? You shared some photos online. Looks like some of your fields got hit pretty good.
Right, so it's kind of interesting. There was one streak of hail that hit quite a few acres, and I initially, just like every farmer, goes out and looks at it and kind of writes off some of its potential. The best thing you can do is just walk away and come back in 6, 7, 8 days to see what it looks like. And out of the acres that were hailed, most of it made a fairly swift recovery, and I don't believe that we're going to have much of a yield drag because of it. Now we do have one certain area that, boy, it pummeled it, and it killed a lot of the population, and I don't expect those acres to really produce much. But for the most part, I am really surprised how well that corn bounced back. And, you know, I always said that wheat's got more lives than a cat, and I guess I never really gave corn much of a credit. And maybe this gives me a little more hope that corn's a little sturdier than what I first thought.
Yep, that is true. Well, Tyson, tell me a little bit about your rotation. What are you going to do with those wheat acres after harvest? Move them into a corn rotation?
Right. So a lot of the acres in this area, you kind of have to be selective. You know, there's always the talk of putting in cover crops, and everyone has this negative connotation of what fallow does to ground. But like I mentioned before, with our moisture regime at 12 to 14 inches, we have to conserve water. Every last drop counts. So on our farm, we found that a rotation that really works for us is winter wheat. And then next year, most of those acres will go to dryland corn. And then we follow it with proso millet. And then we do have a fallow year. So the traditional rotation of wheat fallow, by and large, has really kind of gone away. And everyone's kind of got a rotation put together. And that one just works really well for us.
All right, Tyson, we sure appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us as you do from the cab there. Hope you have a good and safe harvest through the rest of the year.